was Nelson Mandela? After his death in 2013, it is very important for Africa to continue teaching the history of Africans' legends who had truly fought for Africa continent. Nelson Mandela, a true legend. We have to teach this to our little ones because the history of Africa needs to be taught only by Africans, because if we don't do that, then we'll make the history of Africa disappear just in a second, because no one else can assume this responsibility to teach Africans of what had happened before their time. Generation to come will ask us questions. Who was Nelson Mandela? Therefore, in this video, we had prepared for you this short documentary of who was Nelson Mandela. Let us watch.
Well, Lord Nelson is a famous historical figure. The name Nelson is too famous for you just to throw it away. And I have never thought of changing it.
One of the things I like about Mandela is he's tough. If you're going to be a progressive, you have to be tough. Nobody intimidates Mandela.
It doesn't matter who you are, he treats everybody the same. He makes you feel like you're the only one in that room.
He's good, and people's hearts leap because they're saying, this is how we can be.
I remember shaking hands with him and looking at his face. And his face was beautiful, and then when he looked closer, there were 1,000 very tiny wrinkles, and I just thought, they have stolen such a precious amount of time from you.
The first appointment this morning is Prime Minister Helen Clark from New Zealand, and after that the Mexican President, and then the Foreign Minister from Cuba. Apparently he's got a message for you from President Castro, and he would just like to deliver that. So we gave him 15 minutes, and then...
One of the first things you notice about Nelson Mandela is that he is unbelievably busy. Every day is packed with meetings. Today it's especially hectic because there's a World Summit in Johannesburg. It's as though he's making up for the long years wasted in jail.
I see. We're competing with the children, sorry.
Gulu, then you go home for lunch, and then you go to the hotel in Sandton where you'll meet with Megawati Sukarnoputri. Yeah. I think the Prime Minister is about to arrive, Gulu, so it's as if he doesn't realize how big he has become, and I think that is amazing about him. He doesn't realize, the enormity or the excitement really that he creates. I don't think it's that he doesn't appreciate his own abilities. I really just think it's because of his humility that he refuses to become almost kind of a saint that people make him out to be.
But it wasn't always like this. As a young man, Mandela lived through a bleak time in South Africa's history. Apartheid meant 4 million whites ruling nearly 30 million blacks, who were denied their rights and treated as inferior. Mandela was impatient for reform. He didn't think peaceful protest would work, urged blacks to take up arms, and was condemned as a terrorist.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence.
With a group of young activists who were set on forcing change, he left home and went to train with other revolutionaries outside South Africa. Accused of plotting to overthrow the state, he only just escaped the death penalty. Instead, he was sentenced to jail for life, trapped behind bars for 27 years. Mandela is in New York today, guest of honor at a glitzy film festival. These days he mingles with the rich and famous, often charming them into supporting his good causes at home.
Nelson Mandela.
And I'm very sorry my wife and grandchildren are not here today, because they always tell me that I am a has-been. And now that I've been invited for this august occasion, I feel they should know that there are some people who think that I can still perform some function.
I admire him personally because of what kind of person he turned out to be after what they did to him for 27 years. I don't always agree with me. He says things that I don't agree with. He has some analyses of some of the things that were done in my presidency that I think are completely wrong. But I think if any man on earth has earned the right to speak his mind, Mandela has.
While in town, the two former presidents team up to promote their campaign against AIDS in South Africa. It's a cause Mandela has championed ever since he retired.
Oh, very good. How are you?
How are you?
Very good. I didn't know that you are with in the Bill delegation.
No, Sandy Thurman.
How are you?
It's very good to see you
Very
again.
nice
That's the only way I can
see
get
you.
him to see you is bring pretty girls with me. I had to do that.
I don't mind, visit from young ladies without their partners,
You'll just have to witness us signing this agreement. We're going to work together and run the U.S. portion of UNAIDS Global AIDS campaign.
You and Peter are telling me to go get the money from Americans to fight the AIDS. That's what the deal is. As near as I can tell,
And I'm
is
just a pawn.
this is one of those deals where you call me and say, my president. I have to tell you that any conversation we ever started together where he starts by saying, my president, the rest of the conversation is he's going to ask me to do something that I will wind up doing whether I want to do it or not.
Oh, that's very kind. I gathered all of them as my mothers and their children as my own siblings. In fact, I can go so far as to say, in my younger days, I didn't think it was a mistake to have a number of women, and because I was copying from my father.
When Mandela was only 9, his father died. He was taken to live with his uncle, the ruler of the Tembu tribe, who became his guardian. Mandela first learnt about leadership, sitting under a tree listening as the elders reminisced.
The way they told me about the old stories of bravery amongst our people, I wished I had lived during those days. And they really inspired me.
At 19, he was packed off to study at Healdtown, a strict Methodist college. It introduced him to a world of politics beyond local issues. From his classmates, he heard for the first time about the African National Congress, the ANC, the party which was fighting for black South Africans.
People were not talking so much about traditional leaders, but we're talking about modern leaders. This opened my eyes to something totally different. And all that was shaping my attitude.
Back home, Rolish Lala, the troublemaker, wasn't ready to settle down. Tribal tradition dictated he should now set up home with a local bride.
I was being groomed for the position of a ruling traditional leader. But then my guardian, who was the acting king of the tribe, decided to get me and his son wives. The girl he wanted me to marry was in love with his son. In any case, she was not my choice. I was at university already, and I tried to persuade him to let me finish my studies. So I said, no, you can finish your studies, she'll stay with me, I'll look after her, and so on. But by the time I die, I must have made arrangements for the two of you. So we decided to run away.
That decision took Mandela for the first time to the great city of Johannesburg, an experience that changed him and the history of South Africa forever. Back from New York, Mandela is on his way to open one of the many rural schools he's established with the help of big business, escorted by his Presidential Protection Unit, and behind him in the convoy his assistant Zelda, whose job is to manage the demands on his time.
There's a lot of stamina, I think more than people of 20, 30 years old. He amazes us with his strength, really. He'll get off a plane from the United States and he'll fly to a province to attend to an event there.
Mandela has the use of Air Force Learjets and helicopters. Without them, he couldn't keep to his schedule or reach remote areas. He's 84 now. His knees are weak as the result of an old injury in prison, and at times he wears a neck brace for comfort. Along with his bodyguards, a doctor travels with him everywhere.
It's very quick, it's just up and down.
So you will start making coffee now.
Okay.
I have retired, but if there is anything that would kill me, is to wake up in the morning not knowing what to do. The only thing that keeps me going is the fact that I have a program. That is one thing that keeps me alive, and to stop thinking about all my problems.
The routine he's following, I think, comes from the disciplined way in which he lived for 27 years.
He gets up every morning, he does his exercises, he showers, he has breakfast, and the specific things that he eats to make sure that he's got a balanced diet. He won't grab a sandwich like we would do.
You cannot, after 27 years, change your routine.
He was married, he had children, but because of his obligations, he never had time to have a normal family life. Take away all your defenses and you are just a human being.
Many people describe it as a romantic love story, the perfect ending to the story. Is that the right way to see it?
No, I don't know about that, and you can ask her that.
What do you think?
Well, I'll leave everything to her.
I thought it was the end. I never thought I could fall in love again. It would take somebody like Madiba to make me, to wake up and to live again and to believe that love is possible. And finally, to fall in love. That's it.
In 1999, after his 5-year term as president, Mandela kept his promise to step down. But that didn't mean bowing out.
Nelson Mandela meets the Lockerbie bomber in a Scottish jail.
Nelson Mandela, who threw a lifeline to Bill Clinton.
Former President Nelson Mandela has added his voice.
He scornfully described Mr. Blair as a...
Mr. Mandela told reporters that there should be an independent...
Now one of the most respected world leaders is having his say as well.
People like him don't retire. They don't sit still. He contributes to society because that is what he lives for.
It is a psychological persecution.
Nelson Mandela has become the most significant public figure worldwide to challenge you.
I think he enjoys the stage of the world. It also is beckoning because all sorts of people still want to see him, still want to touch him.
The White House has reacted with anger to comments by Nelson Mandela.
I think the United States has become drunk with power.
He can afford to be controversial and to say things people won't like.
We condemn that in the strongest terms.
Because he knows that he has this moral strength which keeps him true to himself and true to others.
And his comments sparked a firestorm of discussion on the nation's airwaves.
I'm now in my 85th year, and I must be satisfied with my life as it is.
Do you have regrets?
No.
Mandela often jokes about the day when he'll retire from his retirement, but it's still a long way off. There's no peace for a living legend.
You must not disturb my hair. I took an hour comment. Santana?
Yes, good, I'm coming.
You'll get me these people too. You know, got asthma.
Yeah.
And then I would like to speak to the Pope. And then to President Putin. And then Sukarno Putri.
Okay.
Tata, the minister has arrived.
Oh, okay.
Flemish?
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you? No, I'm fine, thank you. We need your assistance, please, to set up a call between Mr. Mandela and President Putin regarding Iraq. Yes.
I've got friends. I'm friendly to Tony Blair, to Jacques Chirac, to Gerhard Schroeder. I'm friendly, I speak to them. And I speak also to other leaders. But now that I've lost power, they don't regard me as a threat, and they easily respond to requests that I made.
But do they listen to advice you give and opinions you hold?
Oh, no. Some of them do. You speak your views. You let them know. Santana?
Yes, good, I'm coming.
Is she there?
Yes, I'm coming.
Every minute of Mandela's day has to be properly used. Nothing irritates him more than time wasters.
That chap who spoke for the king, I almost kicked his backside.
I know, me too.
You know?
Yeah.
Firstly, he's not an impressive chap, but the type of things that he wasted time on, I was annoyed with that fellow.
No, I know, and the more you tell them to stop, the more they go on.
Yes, quite.
No, I know.
No, we must tell them that we are in a hurry.
Yeah.
If people take more than the time given to them, we'll just
stop them, yeah. He wouldn't be human if he didn't get irritable. Yes, he does. Especially if people take advantage.
Santana? Man, have you got the newspapers here? I didn't see them at all.
Yes, Gulu. Kurante.
Yes?
Tata,
Yeah?
I'll have to get you the Sowetan.
Oh, I see.
I'll get it now.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Sometimes in certain situations, he almost seems to be a bit formal and distance himself from a situation. But he's not like that at all. His personality, I mean, he'll really break up an atmosphere with one word. He's got an incredible sense of humor.
Yes? How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Are you married?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I see. How long did it take you to propose to him? Please sit down.
Thank you.
It was nearly 60 years ago that Mandela joined the ANC. He helped set up a radical youth wing, which soon came into conflict with a new strain of white supremacy.
I despise them because they were despised by the entire world. They dressed in beautiful suits, silk shirts and silk ties, but they were like a grave. Beautiful outside and full of evil inside. And that's why I despise them. That's why I fought them. Yeah.
In a small office in downtown Johannesburg, Mandela and his fellow ANC activist, Oliver Tambo, went into partnership. The first black law firm in South Africa. George Bezos watched Mandela in action.
What I liked about him was his self-confidence, the assurance with which he appeared for his clients in court at a time when white witnesses, and particularly white women, considered it somewhat insulting to answer the searching questions of a black man. He would stand up and unapologetically continue with the cross-examination, oblivious of the discomfort that he caused by his presence.
Much of Mandela's legal work was defending blacks against past law offences. But it wasn't enough for him to fight injustice in the courts. He took his protest to the streets.
In Johannesburg, premier city of South Africa, thousands of coloured people went to attend a protest meeting called by the African National Congress.
Mandela was a leader of the defiance campaign. Although they risked jail in taking on the authorities, they were determined to maintain a policy of peaceful opposition.
We hated the apartheid regime. We didn't want to have anything to do with them. But our brains said, if you don't talk to these people, this country is going to go up in smoke.
Now one of the established leaders of the ANC, Mandela was arrested with 155 others, charged with plotting against the state.
They have been arrested because they are strong opponents of apartheid. The government is trying to prove that some are infected by communist ideas. That's a criminal offence in South Africa.
The notorious treason trial dragged on for 4.5 years, putting a strain on Mandela's professional and personal life. The office is shut, but Mandela's day isn't over. Tonight he's due at the wedding of the daughter of one of his most important benefactors. And Thabo Mbeki, Mandela's successor as president, is also expected.
Where have you hit on the president? Oh, he's on his way, sir. On his way? Okay, very nice to see you. Very nice.
The dinner is delayed while the party awaits the arrival of Mbeki, testing Mandela's patience.
Well, is it proper to start before the president comes? Let me have a samosa.
Three-quarters of an hour late, the president turns up and dinner can start.
We are hungry.
I'm sure you are. Is that so?
Despite the pleasantries at the table, Mandela has pointedly amended his speech.
In the late 30s, there used to be a president of the ANC who used to say, oh, thank you very much. We used to say, I am the black Prime Minister. I can't come early to meetings. I must come late and all of you must see what a black Prime Minister in this country looks like. I think my president here has taken after that president of the ANC.
As Mandela leaves the dinner, a reminder of the emotion his very presence can arouse. Mandela's charisma has always attracted women. Outside the courtroom during the treason trial, a new face could be seen among the crowd. Mandela had met and fallen in love with Winnie Madikizela, a social worker. His marriage to Evelyn had ended in divorce, and he married Winnie in 1958, and she supported him throughout the trial until its collapse 3 years later.
When he met Winnie, it was the end of the other girlfriends, in a sense. He adored her. He loved her tremendously. Winnie was the main attraction in his life.
But life with Winnie was never going to be easy.
He telephoned me and jokingly told me that he had married trouble. His wife was up on a charge of assaulting a policeman. I defended her successfully. That pleased him no end, and that started a relationship. Amongst the three of us, I think that I probably defended her about 20 times during a period of 25 years.
Demonstrations against the South African government's strict apartheid policies flare into shocking violence.
March 1960, the harsh enforcement of the pass laws led to a protest at Sharpeville. Faced by a crowd of 10,000, the police response was savage.
The crowd refused to disperse. Police opened fire into the crowd from behind a wire fence.
67 were killed, many shot in the back while running away.
The anger I had was one which was disciplined, which was not aimed against whites as such, but against oppression.
Along with fellow ANC leaders, Mandela made a public display of burning his pass and urged others to follow his example. The government declared a state of emergency. Membership of the ANC became a criminal offence. To continue his campaign, Mandela was forced to go underground. Mandela was now a wanted man. He kept on the move, travelled in disguise, stayed at different addresses. One refuge was in a white suburb of Johannesburg. A flat belonging to a left-wing journalist sympathetic to the cause.
About 5 o'clock that morning, I woke up with a creaking sort of in the dark. And I see that he's putting on long johns. He had told me that every morning at about 4:30, he goes running around Soweto. So I said to him, look here, you're not going to run around here. You know, I mean, a black man running around a white area at those early hours of the morning, they'd just grab him straight away. So he said, no, I'm running. So I said, well, I'm not opening that door. You know, the front door. I had the key. And then I saw him, you know, starting to run on the spot. So I said, you do this every day? So he said, yeah, yes, I'm going to do it, yeah, every day. And you know what? Tomorrow, you starting.
In hiding, Mandela was questioning whether the policy of non-violence could still be effective. His thoughts were turning to other methods.
He wanted to know a lot about war and what you do and a little bit of tactics and so on. And then he said, have you got any reading matter on it? And I said, yes, if there's one book that you must read, it's Clausewitz on warfare. And I took it out of the shelf, gave it to him. He straight away sat down, at this table, and he was studying that hour after hour, underlining, writing notes. I think that if the Cape Town Orchestra came and played there, it wouldn't have diverted him.
From being hunted by the state as a public enemy, Mandela is now given its full protection. Tonight, the flight from Johannesburg is carrying its precious cargo to London. Mandela is to be guest of the Queen. At Heathrow, Zelda calls for help. Security arrangements for Madiba, as Mandela's known in South Africa, aren't up to scratch.
I've got a bit of a problem. We are in London on invitation of the Queen, and we've just arrived here now, and they've just told us that Madiba doesn't have any protection of any kind from the Metropolitan Police or Scotland Yard or whoever. So, I mean, it's totally unacceptable that he's not getting any protection here. Okay, please, man, Cecilia. It's okay, thank you. Okay, bye. The doctor is here, and Madiba is there in the car, and we've lost him now. And if anything happens to him now, I mean...
Hello? Hi, sir.
Morning. The threat level against Madiba's life is quite high at the moment, and we were a bit taken aback that he had no protection. We do consider this an official visit because he's here on invitation of Her Majesty. You've got tea at 4 o'clock with Richard Attenborough.
Oh, I see.
Do you want a massage after that?
Yeah, that would be good. Hello. How are you?
Why is the threat?
Well, because of his remarks in public on the Iraqi issue, and him criticizing certain countries for their attitudes and their policy towards Iraq. We had quite a few negative emails coming in from the United States specifically. I mean, some of them are racial, some of them are threatening him, bad language and so on. Unfortunately, there's people, unstable people in the world. How are you?
Very well.
Good to see you.
Lord Attenborough's come to update Mandela on plans to erect a statue of him in Trafalgar Square.
Tony Blair, the Conservative leader, the Tory leader, and then some friends of Donald Woods.
Oh, very good.
Very good. And we're going to put it not in front of South Africa House, but in front of the National Gallery.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it has a wonderful view of Trafalgar Square. It is the most important position in the whole of Trafalgar Square.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
As unrest in South Africa grew in the early 1960s, Mandela argued for new tactics.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people.
Did you have any doubts about crossing the Rubicon of violence?
No, I was determined that the time had come.
Mandela was proposing to take on a state with the best armed forces in Africa. At first there was opposition in the ANC, but Mandela won the doubters over. With a small group of supporters, some of whom were white communists, he began experimenting with
The idea in my mind was not that we were going to win, but that we were going to focus the attention of the world on our demands. Some of this material, we bought it in the chemist. And when it worked well, then we knew that we had a powerful weapon.
In December 1961, the attacks began. 200 acts of sabotage in 2 years. Targets were power supplies, pass offices, and other government buildings. The aim was to avoid loss of life, but Mandela later wrote that if sabotage failed, he'd adopt other methods. You said you were starting with sabotage, but you said that if that didn't work, you'd consider and guerrilla warfare. How far is it right to go?
We never embarked on.
But you said you would if sabotage didn't work, didn't you? You wrote it you would.
Means any individual, organization, or state that targets innocent individuals. That's what it is. We never did.
Mandela left South Africa to raise funds and start training the ANC's new armed wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, the spear of the nation. They recruited a small number of committed fighters who were prepared to confront the government.
We made it clear that your object is military targets. Part of my training was what they call demolition work.
Thank you for watching this part 1 of the living legend Nelson Mandela. Do you know why? Because the history of Africa need to be taught by Africans only, for the obvious reasons which I'll discuss with you in this video just in a couple of minutes. Guys, you don't know how important it is for an African child to know exactly of what had happened back then. People have committed serious crime in Africa continent, and it is for that reasons that these are the same people who don't want the truth to be known. They don't want you to know the truth about what they have done in Africa continent. They don't want to talk about things which they had committed as a crime in Africa continent. That is the reason why you see them trying to avoid by all means for this kind of debate, this kind of documentary, this kind of analysis to not take place. You don't have any idea also what kind of challenge do we face in order for us to provide you with this kind of documentary. You don't have any idea what kind of risk we take whenever we come up with this kind of analysis, so that we can talk about Africa, so that we can discuss of what had happened in Africa, so that we can have a clear idea on how we can get to develop Africa. The West, they are good at one thing. That one thing is to hide the truth of what they had committed as crime in Africa. And it is for that reasons they are making sure that each and every time when Africans, they have to sit on one place and come to think together and exchange ideas on how they can liberate Africa and on how they can develop the African continent. These people, they don't want that. You're not going to be surprised why you never ask yourself a question to know why these people, they don't teach their children in school about who was Nelson Mandela, who was Patrice Emery Lumumba, who was Mohamed Guruma, who was so on and so on, African heroes who had died and sacrificed their life for African child. They don't want to talk about that. Instead, you know what they usually do? They will discuss about who had invaded Google, who had invaded iPhone, who had invaded Microsoft, who had done this, who have done that. But they don't even have the courage to teach their children in their school that the minerals, the materials which we use to invade this so on cameras or all this device, whether it is TV, these things are coming from Africa continent. And in order for us to put our hands on these minerals, this is the kind of crimes of bad things we have done to Africans. They don't do that. They don't have that courage because they have only one mission. Their mission is to make sure that they delete the whole entire history which concern Africa continent. They don't want Africans to know of what had happened. So we are not gonna let them do that. Regardless of how many challenges we can face, regardless of how risk these things it might be causing us, but we're not gonna let them that. That's the reason why we came up with this platform, so that we can exchange, so that we can give each other ideas, so that we can analyze together and try to make the history of Africa remain alive. Because if we don't do that, your children, your grandchildren, tomorrow they'll ask us questions, they'll judge us, they'll say that you were there, you participate, or you were not there, but you could not consolidate what our grandparents had left already as history, or you could not be able to write it in your books, you could not be able to teach it to these children. Don't judge us for that. So it is for that reason we are standing and making sure that we are going to fight, and we are going to give it all our best to make sure that the history of Africa remain alive. Well, guys, you watch this video, you will notice that some of the place in this video, we put it blurry. It was not by our choice that we choose to make it this blurry. If you notice again, especially in the last part of this video, Mandela Living Legend, you'll find out that some of the audios, we have to mute it. It was not by our choice, but it is because these people who don't want the history of Africa to be told, they are trying by all means to use their platforms to make sure that no one should not know the truth about what had happened. So we faced serious challenge. They did not want this video to be on their platforms. Yes, I tried different platforms. They were not accepting it. They were busy giving up a lot of terms and conditions, all because they don't want the truth to be known to Africans. Because if you see all the plays which I put on blurry, it is because it was showing the crime these people they had committed in Africa continent. But just because they don't want Africans' child to know exactly what they have done, well, that is the reason why they don't want this kind of image to be shown in their platforms. If you notice the place where I mute some of the audios, because there were some truth, some words which was coming from Nelson Mandela toward these people, telling them the truth of what they are doing to the black South Africans. But just because, again, they don't want this truth to be known to South Africans or any black child out there all around the world, whether you are in America or Australia, Canada, UK, every black child who've been asking too much questions of what had happened, then they prefer you not to discover the truth. But I'm glad at least we fought until the end. We managed to come up with this part 1. Part 2 is coming. Part 2 is gonna come with a lot of revelations. Part 2 is gonna even expose many people out there. And I will make sure that we're gonna fight through so that we can manage to come up with this part 2, because this part 1, they really fought it in order for it to be here. I prepared this documentary for about 4 to 5 months now, but I could not be able to bring it here on this social media because they were refusing with all their platforms. So we had to make some exchanges so that you can be able at least to find out of what had really happened, because you have the right. It is within your right for you to know of what had really happened to our true legend, our heroes. Because you need to know, for an example, why Patrice Emery Lumumba was killed. Who killed Lumumba? For what reason they had to assassinate him in such a way? Those are the questions you, as an African child, you need to study at school. You need to know. Because they killed him and they did not even want him or his body to be buried. But they make sure that they had to put his body in acid and resolve his body over there. The history have to be told, because after they had eliminated Patrice Emery Lumumba, the last person who had the easy access to his body before they perish it into an acid container, one person removed Patrice Emery Lumumba's tooth. He hid it. After he went back to Belgium, after so many years, he ended up confessing to his Belgian government, telling them that no, well, Patrice Lumumba is gone, but the only things which remain of him is only this tooth. And they had the courage to take that tooth and go and put it in their museum over there in Belgium. Did you know about all this? I doubt most of you did not even know what this really means and who did this. But it is only recently, about 3 to 5 years ago, that the government of Congo had to go and claim that one tooth which belongs to Patrice Emery, and it was only that one tooth that the Belgium, they had to negotiate with the Republic of Congo, and they give it to the Congolese government, and then they had to organize a proper burial, or should I say a proper memorial service for Patrice Emery Lumumba after 60 years. After 6 years. So you see the kind of things that these people, they have done or commit in Africa. They've been hiding all these secrets. So it is up to us as Africans to make sure that we go through to the bottom of this and dig down. That is the reason why here at Cool Buzz TV, if you notice very well, if you've been watching us, you'll see for yourself that we don't just come and sit here and start talking nonsense. We take our time to make research. We take our time to dig down in the bottom of everything, where everything they don't want to talk about Africa. We bring out all these things and make sure that we bring the proper analysis that bring a lot of revelations on the things that you deserve to know as an African child. So you are not making a mistake to be part of this big family of Cool Buzz TV, because we have accepted to take that risk. We have accepted to make that big research, so that each and every details we are bringing you through our analysis should make sense, should at least bring a 1+ to what you deserve to know as an African child. You need to know what had happened to Muammar Gaddafi. Why they had to eliminate Muammar Gaddafi. Why they have to assassinate him in such way. You deserve to know all these things, because the history of Africans will only be told, or it will only be taught only by Africans. If we don't talk about this, well, then tomorrow we will wake up, we'll find out that nothing had happened before, because us as people who were in our rightful to discuss about all these matters, we never take it serious. So that is the reason why we are making sure that we discuss with you about this kind of topic. We go through the we make different research in different ways that's possible we might have, and then we have to come up with this. So I apologize again for not bringing the whole video here, as I told you guys that it is a video which we prepare it in 2 parts. So this is part 1. We had to face all these challenges before they allow it to be here, and regardless of how we managed to make some places blurry and mute some of the audio, you, the person who have watched this video, I believe you have a clear idea of what had really happened. I believe you are now in the right position, at least to call your children and put them down and show them that, no guys, you see, this is what Nelson Mandela and more Pan-African leaders went through in order for Africa to be where it is today. And we still have a lot of work to do so that we can liberate this Africa definitely from all the Western power. Because we can only liberate this Africa if we are talking about this kind of matters, if we put our power together as Africans, if we are united, if we discuss about matters that make sense, that is the only way we'll send this strong message to the Western power and tell them that no, this is not the old Africa, but this is the new Africa, which is full of youth who are having full of energy, and this is not something that we gonna accept at all. So guys, I believe that to be all for today in this part 1 of Nelson Mandela, a living legend. We are looking forward to part 2, and if you don't want to miss it, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that when we upload the part 2, you'll be able to get it again on time. But do me a favor before you leave, make sure that you give me your thumbs up. You see that's thumbs, just click on it. It's free of charge, because this kind of job, it is very risky that we are taking, but we have at least to bring all this information to you and our analysis. So if you want to support us, you just have to like this video, give us your thumbs up, so that the YouTube platforms and Facebook platforms, they will be able to recommend this video to many people, because our wish, our mission is to make sure that each and every African can be able to see this kind of message and have a clear conclusions to whatsoever they've been asking themselves as questions about of what had happened before their time in this Africa continent. That will be all. Thank you so much for your time. For now, continue to be yourself, be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. I'll see you again very soon. Ciao, ciao.